This meeting of council is called to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the February 10th regular meeting agenda as presented? Councilor Rishagan, Councilor Butler. All in favor? So carried. Can I have a motion, council adopt January 26th regular meeting minutes as presented?
So moved.
All in favor?
Discussion, please.
No discussion.
Thank you. I'd just like to have the minutes amended to include that I voted against the motion in section D, under late items, please. And I don't know if council would be willing to discuss this, but it was brought up earlier that this motion actually, I forget the word that Councillor Rishagan used. It was a legal term that it wasn't actually binding on council. Council determines to table any discussion with regard to water meters until staff receive legal advice to protect the municipality. It was just discussed earlier that this was binding on council. Yeah. So I just wanted to know if the public needed to be aware of that. That isn't anything that.
Essentially, Mr. Mayor, through you, the motion itself is sound in as much as that they're seeking legal advice to the city, to seek legal advice to protect the municipality from legal action with regard to the contract in place with the applicant. That part is sound. It's the part that states that council determines to table any discussion. Because no motion at the municipal level can supersede any provincial legislation, or different any provincial legislation cannot supersede any federal legislation. In saying that, it means that when it comes to my council report, Councillor Thompson's, Councillor Butler's council report, we can speak on any issue, whether any of us agree with it or not. And so essentially to muzzle us to say that we can't discuss water meters would be superseding many various statutes and your freedom of speech, essentially. So the part about the legal action and the city looking for that's perfectly sound. But to say that you can't speak on an issue is ultra virus for sure.
Another discussion.
Mr. Mayor, could we get the record of the seconder for that motion, please?
Yes. Was it yourself?
I think so.
It was Councillor Thompson. And Councillor Rishagan was over.
Thank you.
How to deal with it, Mr. Mayor, I'm already that for sure. Because I certainly plan to speak to it and today.
Councillor Butler.
Is it possible to put forward a motion to just strike that initial part of it from the minutes of the meeting and leave the last part of it?
Councillor Thompson.
I think what I would suggest that is that perhaps this motion more appropriately should be rescinded at this meeting. I think we, through you to staff, I think we can do that, can we not?
Mr. Mayor, if council wanted to change the decision of that motion, the mayor has 30 days to bring the motion back. And so he could essentially bring the motion back where council could re-vote on it.
But can it be amended at that point?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I believe it can. If he's bringing the issue back within the 30 days, it could be amended.
So in that case, I will bring the motion back to the table.
Mr. Mayor, in as much as that we do have a motion to adopt the minutes, we would have to, in my opinion, accept the minutes and the recommendations therein. Following that, you could bring it back.
Yeah.
Because this did occur at the meeting, we can't just make it disappear.
No, yeah.
So once we accept the minutes and everything, and the recommendations, and then right after we can bring back a motion.
Councillor Butler.
Oh.
In as much as I'd like to strike that first part from the minutes, because it has been brought forth that this isn't actually binding, I don't know if there's any point in actually removing it at this point, bringing it back for discussion, talking about it, wasting maybe another 20 minutes before we move on to the next agenda item. I just asked to have my vote recorded that I voted against it, and as long as everybody here is aware that that's where we stand with that issue, I'd just be happy to leave it.
So we have a motion on the table, all in favor? So carried. Can I have a motion that council adopts the January 26th Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented? Councilor Rasheed. Councilor Ross. Discussion, debate.
Sorry, I also wanted to have my vote recorded that I voted against a motion in the Committee of the Whole meeting. I have it marked here somewhere. Oh, here it is. The motion that council support the principle of local access to medical cannabis. Vote against that issue. I'd like it recorded, please.
Noted. Any other debate? No. All in favor of the motion to accept the minutes? So carried. The corporate officers report on council procedure.
No, that's us.
That's us.
So, Councilor Butler, start with your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On January the 29th, I attended the Restorative Justice presentation at the GEM Theatre. The event was well attended and focused on the importance of open, respectful communication between diametrically opposed parties in order to heal and restore victims as well as criminals. The process takes a community approach and has been modeled amongst First Nations communities and within the justice system. Staff Sergeant Jim Harrison was also in attendance to support the initiative and spoke about some of the challenges in our own community that this method could address. That being said, sometimes hard things need to be spoken and issues need to be addressed head on. I was going to speak on the effects of the provincial government's Water Sustainability Act on Grand Forks tonight, but right now we have a much bigger issue developing. It's no secret that this council is diametrically opposed on more than one issue. For the past 2 months, I've tried to build bridges, create compromises, and be a positive team player. But at this point, I feel I must speak and let the people know how disappointed I am with the transparency at City Hall. The hours spent in closed-door meetings that the public knows nothing about. The lack of access to information that I require to make informed decisions is appalling. I knew politics would be challenging, but if the people of Grand Forks knew what was being done in secret, they'd be outraged. I'm not able to divulge any further, but I'd like to know why all the secrecy. What does council have to hide from the people of this town? I've asked council in an email if we could engage in some kind of restorative justice amongst ourselves, but received no response. A healthy team requires all members to feel valued and included. But at this point, politics remains politics, and no peaceful solution is being sought. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Butler. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate our acting corporate officer, event coordinator, Sarah Winton, and the Boundary Country Regional Chamber of Commerce General Manager, James Wilson, on their successful organization of the Family Day events on Saturday. I would also like to acknowledge those organizations who, despite the rain, participated in the event from 11 o'clock in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. And they included our fire department, the hot dogs were delicious, Success by Six and Boundary Family and Individual Services Society for having a fish pond for the children, the Boundary Museum Society for the hot chocolate and the pictures taken on the cutter sled, the Rotary Club for providing samples of their scrumptious kettle corn, Nathan Vogel for his amazing magic show, the Boundary Métis Community Association and Bannock for sharing samples of found. I ate it for the first time I was ever tasting. Purdy School Pack for having a bake sale, and the Grand Forks ATV Club for giving free rides around City Park. Recognition must also be given to the Gems Theater for 2 showings of Paddington, Sunshine Lanes for 3 hours of bowling, and the Grand Forks Curling Rink for offering free activities. Free skating at the arena, including free skate rentals if needed, happened on Sunday, and free swimming was offered on Monday. I saw many cars parked in front of the arena and swimming pool both days. Unfortunately, the Phoenix Ski Hill had to cancel their events due to the closure of the hill. From what I have read on Facebook, I am certain that the 3 days of ice fishing and snow carving at Wilbur's Lake was a big success. The City of Grand Forks owes a huge big thank you to the many corporate sponsors who supported the 3 days of fun and enjoyment. Without them, this would not have been the success it was.
Councilor Rashagan.
I'm not too sure about these things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of reports, I haven't been back for that long, and I haven't exactly been the best of health here. I've been sick, my daughter and myself. However, without having anything in front of me, I would just do this from the hip here. For the last 2 months, this council really hasn't accomplished much in terms of setting direction moving forward, I don't think. In as much as that we've had a lot of individuals come forward in regards to positive feedback in terms of water meters, negative feedback in terms of water meters. The fact of the matter is the city has already installed about 75% of the water meters. What I'm proposing is a motion at this point, and everybody knows my position on this, but the fact is we have gone this far and we need to complete the water meter project. So I will move to reaffirm the city's position to proceed with the water meter project.
I'll second that.
I think that's a wonderful idea. We've invested so much into it already. I think the only thing we can do is proceed and move forward.
All in favor? Opposed? Councilor Butler
Please record it.
and the mayor. Mr. Crog.
I just have one note on the council report, and that was on January 31st, Rotary held its annual fundraising Scotch tasting. It was well attended and saw a large increase in participation. I tried 2 types of Scotch. And I'll stick. Yes, that's what happened to my foot. No, but I will stick to beer and bourbon. But it was a good event, and they raised a lot of money.
Thank you. Councilor Hammond.
Okay, some of these are repeated. I'm repeating from other councilors' reports, so I won't go into the details because they've already been explained, but I did attend the restorative justice documentary and the commentary that followed. Very interesting. That was the first time I'd been involved in that, and it was quite informative. Saturday, February 7th, Family Day events on Market were spectacular. Unfortunately, the weather didn't cooperate, but we had a good turnout. Everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. And kudos to everybody that participated, especially the fire department, for their huge contribution, because it was just amazing. And that's it.
Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As of the last regular meeting, up to the closing date of January 31st, the entire council has been involved in an ongoing review of resumes from CAO from the CAO applicants. On January 27th, more specifically, I met with Graham Watt to discuss the Kettle River Watershed Management Plan. It's not the first time I've had the pleasure of meeting with Graham to get a better understanding, not only of the watershed plan, but the history behind it. I have an ongoing interest in the environmental issues related to water, air, soil, and the natural flora and fauna of this amazing region. There's a need for me, as well as all of us, to have a better understanding of the important research projects and initiatives that are already in place, and to support those projects wherever possible. On January 29th, as the alternate rep for Area D from Council, I attended the RDKB meeting that was hosted in Grand Forks as an observer only. And I just want to say that I was amazed at the professionalism and the speed in which they got through that hefty agenda. On February 3rd, the CAO hiring committee met to shortlist for interviews. On February 5th, we had Skype interviews for the CAO, and we continue to work on that. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
And thank you, Your Worship. In concert with Councillor Wershag's resolution for us to proceed with the water meter project, I would like to put forward the following resolution that is an adjunct to that resolution. And it would be that this council for 2015 would like to invite the select committee who were chosen to discuss and bring a report back and recommendations with regard to the establishment of rates and billing for the water service at the city of Grand Forks. And that committee include the following persons: Lynn Hanson, Bill Hingley, Nigel James, Mike Callaghan, William Palm, Frank Ribery, Graham Watt, Dan Zabinski, and 2 members of council. And further, that they be asked to convene at their earliest convenience.
I'll second that.
All in favor? So carried. Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to Councillor Thompson's motion, I'd like to put my name forward for that committee.
So moved. I'd like to thank all the councillors for their reports. Do I have a motion to receive their reports?
You did a report, Mr. Mayor?
No,
Don't
he
have a
did.
report this
Oh.
time.
Oh, okay, okay, yes.
I'd like to propose that Councillor Ross be appointed to the Environment Committee, and that it be an ad hoc committee, so we shouldn't have to chair it, we should just be part of that committee.
Do I do it through the motion?
Do a motion, or-
If the mayor
We need a
can also,
motion, or-
the mayor can just explain.
I agree with that. Councillor Butler.
Does that committee or the remnants of that committee, does it have a budget? Do we need to put in a budget for that?
Talk about that, yeah, we need to put in a budget for that.
Do we need to do that now?
Can we do that at a later date?
Yeah.
Put it on the agenda.
Put it on the next agenda. Time being an issue here.
And I would also like to serve on that select committee for the water rates as well. I said 2 members of council, so Councillor Butler and I be appointed to serve on that committee.
Mayor, could we get the seconder for the appointment of the Environment Committee?
There was none,
We did it.
the mayor just appointed.
Okay, here's a
Just
second.
appointed, okay.
Yeah.
There's no motion. So a motion to receive all the verbal reports. Councillor Verstegen. Councillor Hammond, all in favor? So carried. Now I have a report from our council representative to the Regional District Recruitment Boundary.
Okay, on January the 28th, I attended the West Kootenai Boundary Regional Hospital District meeting. And on the 29th, I attended the RDKB board meeting. On the 3rd, I went to a Boundary Economic Development Committee meeting. And on the 5th, I attended a Boundary Stakeholders Budget meeting. Now, I did have a bit of a setback, so I only have written from the first meeting, the hospital meeting. So Marguerite Rotvold was acclaimed as chair, and Walter Popoff, who's Area H Spokane Valley, is the acting chair, co-chair. We sat down for a strategic planning session, and part of that was the following two questions. What do you see as challenges to healthcare in your community? And what do you think are the challenges facing the other communities of this board? I thought that all of the responses, so we broke into groups, I thought all of the responses would be similar. And some of them were, but they did go over a variety of topics. One that most of the smaller communities face is transportation. Like transportation to get to appointments. I was asked, and we talked about Grand Forks and the Valley and in road conditions, and that we have a Greyhound that comes through. We have a smaller transit bus, but it won't take you to an appointment in Picton or Trail. So that was familiar to some of the other communities out there, New Denver, that type of thing. So the other thing we looked at and I kind of brought forward was there's all this discussion about what we need in our areas, like we would like to see obstetrics at our hospital, but it's one of those catch-22 chicken egg things. If you have enough people, then you can have the facilities and the procedures available, but until you get those procedures, you're not going to get enough people moving here. So we're stuck a little bit that way. I brought forward the fact that there are no treatment centers in any of our areas, and this goes all the way through. It's not just the Kootenai boundary, it's East Kootenays as well. They all sit on the, Central Kootenai, and they all sit on the board. The other thing that I brought up in front of IH was that Grand Forks and its residents pay a lot of money to have an airport that is night flight certified for medevac. And we do it by ourselves, and we don't get participation from IH, and we don't get participation from the other areas. So I brought that to the table. There wasn't a lot of discussion on stuff. This was just finding information for right now. The IH made its presentation regarding the capital funding request for 015-016, and they stated that their capital budget for newly approved items amounts to just under 49 million, and a lot of that we pay 40% of. There is a much larger identified need in our communities. This funding request includes solely items that have been defined as urgent and that address the needs where patients and staff safety concerns are predominant. Ministry of Health and IH are contributing a combined 300.6 million within that capital budget, and we'll be funding the rest. Now, just a little breakdown, they break it down to construction projects over 100,000, construction projects under 100,000, the equipment purchasing and stuff. I won't go through all the stuff about the South Block and Lower Vault electrical upgrade at the Kootenai Boundary Regional Hospital Trail. Electrical equipment at the site is 50 years old and is the end of its useful life. Okay, so I won't go through all those. But I will, I've got pages of it, but I will kind of gear it towards us. And one of the projects is to replace the domestic hot water boilers and water tanks at the Boundary Hospital. They're inefficient domestic hot water boilers. They're about 30 years old. Parts are difficult to source. The tanks are fitted with components which are at a risk of failure. So they're going to be doing that in Boundary Hospital and laundry, blah, blah, blah. There's another one coming in for Boundary Hospital. To do with, I believe, phone lines and some other electrical for equipment under 100,000. I could read this whole thing, but I'm pretty sure that you'd be not wanting that. So I will have reports on the other meetings I attended. I just had a bit of a hiccup and I'm behind on a lot of things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. Could I have a motion to accept the report from Councillor Crowe? Councillor Regan, Councillor Thompson. Discussion, all in favor? So carried. We now have recommendation from staff for decision. I have a motion that council direct staff to extend the current 5-year lease for city property civically known as 7212 Riverside Drive for a period of 10 years so that the multi-agency accommodation project, otherwise known as MAPS, is eligible to receive $100,000 grant funding from BC Housing for continued development of planned improvements to the said property leased by Habitat for Humanity on behalf of the Boundary Emergency Transitional Housing Society, otherwise known as BETS, Whispers of Hope, and Habitat for Humanity, and further direct staff to advertise the public notice in accordance with section 26 and 94 of the Community Charter.
So moved.
Councillor Butler. Councillor Rashagan. Discussion or debate?
I'd like to make a resolution that we defer this discussion to the next available council meeting and discuss it in depth. Because it's a big commitment.
Pardon me?
It's a big commitment on behalf of the city.
So you're making a motion to refer?
To defer to the next available council meeting.
Do I have a second? Councillor Ross. Any debate on that? Referral? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we did discuss this in depth this morning. We met with the parties involved, heard their position, and debated it this morning. So to speed up our process here in council with our long meetings, I would recommend just voting on it now.
Actually, we didn't discuss it. We listened to the request, but we didn't have a discussion. This afternoon, I was going to bring it up, but it was not accepted in the in-camera meeting as a further discussion because I had questions that I needed to ask on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Rashagan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, if we want to discuss it, why don't we just discuss it right now instead of discussing it?
Yeah.
I'm personally in favor of the recommendation from staff.
Okay, well, I just think that once a building goes on there, that riverfront property is gone. That's prime real estate property along the riverfront. And I think that it would be prudent for us in our strategic planning to wait until we have a CAO in place to discuss. The city's been purchasing property along that riverfront with the trails and the park. That's just a big project that I think that we'd be rushing into.
Sorry. Okay, I was going to say, point of order, now we're discussing the referral motion. We should be at least, so we should vote on that, I guess, first,
Yes.
before we discuss the main motion.
So all in favor of the referral motion? Councillor Crog, Councillor Hammett and Councillor Ross. All opposed?
Thompson.
Thompson, oh, sorry. All opposed?
Record it, please.
Councillor Wershagen and Councillor Butler were opposed. Motion carries. Now we go back to the main motion. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking to the motion, this was made so that they could receive their grant of 100,000. I just threw you to the staff. I'm concerned that if we put this off too long, that they might not be eligible.
Wait,
Sorry.
where it was carried to refer it, so
Yeah.
the motion.
So the main motion is on the table?
Well, it's to refer the main motion to the next available council.
Oh, okay.
So we're on to the next item.
You had mentioned you wanted to discuss the main motion.
But I can't now, I have it the next item you're asking.
All right. So, in our information items, I would like council to receive this for information, letters of support for the water meter program, moving forward towards the development and growth and support for city staff.
I move that we receive these letters for information.
Second, Councillor Thompson. All,
No.
all in favor? So carried. Again, from the city of Grand Forks, the anti-water meter letters, receiving it for information. Do I have a motion? Councillor Wershagen, Councillor Ross. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. Our next item, the fee for service information, the Boundary Museum and Interpretive Center, Boundary Country Regional Chamber of Commerce, Boundary District Arts Council. I would like a motion for council to receive the information. Councilor Shagan. Second, Councillor Butler. All in favor to receive the information? So carried. Next item, follow-up letter from Charlie Sadamanenko to receive it for information. Can I have a
Move.
second? Councillor Hammond. All in favor? Carried. BC Senior Games, Zone 655 plus BC Games, request for sponsorship to receive for information and discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Thompson. Can I have a second? Councillor Wershagen, debate.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to our CFO, what has been the, if anything, has been the city's participation over the last 3 years with respect to these games?
Mr. Mayor, I can answer that. The last year, I don't believe that council supported this. The 2 years prior to that, I think they did, and it was because there was a bit of a grant and aid policy that we had. However, that has changed, and so council did not support last year.
So then we can just receive it for information.
Yes, unless there's any other discussion. Okay. So do I have all in favor? So carried. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers, letter requesting support to Save Canada Post. Can I have a motion to receive this for information? Councillor Thompson. Councillor Wershagen. All in favor?
I'd like to speak to it.
This is just another example of the privatization of something that's always been in our commons and is being put into the hands of the private sector. We've seen it in the States and other countries around the world where, in fact, courier services are taking over from everyday postal services. And I think it's really an act of solidarity for us as a community just to write a letter supporting the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, and just staying in solidarity with those workers and in their union.
Any discussion, Councillor Butler?
I would concur with Councillor Ross. I'd like to see postal service remain in the public sector and not be privatized, so I would support a letter as well.
Councillor Crowe?
Is either one of those a motion?
No, there wasn't. There's a motion already on the table, so we're discussing. We're just waiting to vote on it.
Yeah, we're just receiving information.
Yeah, we're just receiving for
but-
information.
Sorry, we're receiving for information a motion, but then, is there gonna be another motion
Sure.
afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if either one of those was actually a motion.
I'm speaking in
Okay.
favor of it.
So all in favor for receiving it for information? So carried.
I'd like to propose a motion that the city of Grand Forks write a letter to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers expressing our support of their action to save Canada Post from privatization.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councillor Butler? Any debate? Councillor Crowe?
Yeah, just, so we'll send a letter of, support, to the union, but wouldn't we also be sending a letter to Canada Post or to the federal government to,
Jim mentioned.
so is that on there as well?
Well, you can make an amendment to it and say.
Okay, friendly amendment, send it to whoever. Well, I don't mean whoever, I mean
I can,
whoever would best be served by receiving said letter.
I consider it, it does have to be a friendly amendment, it just has to be an amendment. So, that we send a letter to Canada Post, to the PMO, and to, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers.
So can I have a motion on the amendment?
Discussion? I've read this, but I'm not seeing where it says that they're planning on privatizing the postal service. They're just talking about eliminating door-to-door service. But that's not gonna be privatized, they're still gonna have, they're just downsizing the post office.
My motion doesn't say privatize. It just says to protect or maintain the services of the Canada Post. We can write it in context and I can assist with it.
Do I have a second? Councillor Butler? Any more discussion? All in favor? So carried. The AKBLG, a letter from the president regarding final call for resolutions and changes to the AKBLG resolution bylaw to receive this for information. Can I have a motion? Councillor Thompson, have a second. Councillor Rashagan. All in favor? So carried. Now we have various citizens' letters. Letters regarding the Kootenays Medicine Tree Medical Cannabis Products. I'd like council to make a motion to receive these for information.
You can move it, I'll second.
Councillor Thompson. Any debate? All in favor? So carried. Grand Forks ATV Club, a letter of support in hiring Wild Safe BC coordinator. Again, for council for a motion.
I move to receive.
Second.
Councillor Butler. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. We now have Peter Matheson, a letter outlining plans for City Hall Council chambers. Council to make a motion to receive it for information. Councillor Butler. Do I have a second for Councillor Ross? Do we have any discussion? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I'm really impressed with the proposal that we've had for Mr. Matheson, and I believe that council is considering it and hoping to, believe I can say that. You guys are okay with that?
Well,
That we like it. Yeah, we plan on rearranging according to his plans, so we really appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
As mayor, I also would like to thank you for your effort and your hard work. Highly appreciate it.
You're not gonna send us an invoice, are you?
Now I am. Okay, all in favor of the motion to receive it? Thank you. So carried. We have Ian Mitchell's email responses and inquiries regarding open letter, water meters, and strategic planning. I'd like to have a motion from council to receive this for information. Councillor Hammond. Councillor Verschagen. Won't have any discussion of our allowance. All in favor? So carried. Professional Association of Residents of BC, a letter of congratulations and information. Again,
I move to receive.
Second.
all in favor? So carried. Sunshine Valley Women's Institute, a letter of congratulations and request for sidewalk in front of Silver Kettles Village. I'd like council to make a motion to receive for information and refer to staff to include in budget discussion. Councillor Butler. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Butler.
Speaking to the motion, Mr. Mayor, this has been included in the initial stages of our budget discussions this morning. So I'm not sure if we actually need to refer that to staff at this point. Yeah, so I think we're good just to receive the information.
So all in favor? So carried. Mr. Graham Watt, Kettle River Watershed Management Plan Steering Committee. The request is for council's endorsement of Kettle River Watershed Management Plan. And the motion is for council to endorse the Kettle River Watershed Management Plan. Do I have a motion? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Ross. Councillor Ross. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking against the motion, first of all, I'd just like to say, when I first moved here, I was living on the Granby River. I swam in the Granby River every day. I drank from the Granby River. I wasn't on anybody else's water. It was good water up there. I love the Granby and Kettle Valleys very much. But unfortunately, when I looked at this plan, there was a few things that red flagged me right away. Number one, the fact that clear cuts really wasn't dealt with in this issue. Clear cuts affect our flooding in the springtime. I know this was addressed this morning, but I would have liked to have seen that detailed a bit more. Also, the suggestion for water storage areas concerns me. They're not specific enough to say that these are smaller water storage areas. I think it could give the go-ahead for larger dams on the Kettle and Granby rivers. Also, I think that one of the biggest threats threatening our watershed right now is the fact of privatization, like we talked about. The provincial government's just put a price on water, although it's a very low price. We do have large bottled water companies and fracking companies that are using up our resources in British Columbia, and this management plan doesn't deal with that at all. It doesn't deal with that threat that might be coming to our area. We have a gold mine that we're sitting on here with our rivers, and I'd really like to see them protected from any future interests from corporate investment. So at this point, with regards to the Polis project as well, out of UVic, that is talking about the money that's going to be required for implementing the Sustainable Water Act that the provincial government has just put forward. The Kettle River Watershed Management Plan it seems like it's going to be asking us to take part in a lot of studies and new groups that need to be formed. And the Polis project actually says that the MOE is going to have to increase their budget by 10 to 20% to implement their strategies, and that this rise in their budget would be coming from fees and licenses from consumers. So I'm concerned that this is going to end up costing our town a bit of money in the future, and I'd like to see it tabled until we can address these issues.
Discussion or debate. Councillor Ross.
The plan that we've been shown is the Kettle River Watershed Management Plan version 1.01, and January 2015. And although I completely agree with Councillor Butler's concerns, I'm a crazy fan of the Granby River. I get passionate about it. I love the Kettle. The entire watershed is just fabulous and unique. I think as we get into, especially through the environmental plan, that for our environmental group, that committee, which Graham is a part of, and many of the lovers of the Kettle are a part of, that those particular issues will be addressed. And although I wasn't here this morning because I was too sick to attend early in the morning, I was listening on Grand Forks TV, and I did hear Graham's presentation. And I know from speaking to Graham that he also has similar concerns to what you've expressed here, and which I'm deeply concerned about. I think we need to move forward with this. We need a management plan, and we need to manage ourselves around the plan. So I do want to endorse it, and I want to encourage Graham and work with Graham as we move forward to protect our watershed.
Have any other discussions? Councillor Hammond.
I'd also like to add too that Mr. Watt did explain that this was a living document and it's evolving. So he's compared this to software, so it's constantly upgrading. So this is version 1.01, and further down the road there will be 1.2 and so on. So it's constantly evolving and it will be changing.
Councillor Thompson.
I also concur with Councillor Butler's comments. I think they're well stated and are certainly going to be or should be looked at in the next iteration of this plan. And I don't believe it's exclusive. I think the reviews will be open to the public to participate and to elected officials as well. And I'm going to refer that to the Area D Rural Grand Forks Director through your worship for a response. I believe I'm correct in that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also been serving as chair of the stakeholder advisory group.
If I may, point of order, we would need a motion to.
Yeah, we have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
No.
A motion to allow.
Yeah.
To allow Mr.
Well,
Russell.
we have a motion to table. We can't interact another motion for someone to speak.
The tabling motion will not allow us to speak, period.
The tabling motion wasn't seconded.
Yeah, it wasn't seconded.
I know, I'm making a motion to allow Mr. Russell to speak though.
Oh, okay.
Just to suspend the rules, allow him to speak, so he can answer the question.
Councillor Crock seconded, but I didn't think he was seconded. Okay, all in favor to allow Mr. Russell to speak?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been an open process. The city of Grand Forks has been involved from the get-go. And so a lot of those issues have been part of that conversation. And there's no reason why the plan as it stands right now is exclusive to any of those conversations taking place in the future.
Thank you. So now the motion is on the table to table it. Do I have a second? No, it's not? No, you receive it? So all.
To endorse it.
So all in favor? All opposed?
I'll still be opposed, sorry guys. You can record that.
So carried.
Still working if you don't want.
Okay.
In the bylaws section, our chief financial officer will be dealing with the electrical bylaw 2009, electrical utility regulatory amendment bylaw, the motion that the council give its first three readings. Bylaw 2009, electrical utility regulatory amendment bylaw.
I like that motion.
Councillor Butler, do I have a second? Councillor Thompson. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last time that this electrical bylaw came up, we had decided, I thought, to add a little bit to it. With the opt-out option in here, we had talked about, and I put it in writing actually to staff, that if the customer qualifies for the equal payment plan under Schedule D, Section 1.6, the manual read charge may be waived, and that this service may be discontinued if it's not compatible with the technology, practices, procedures, or capacity of the electrical utility. I believe that this section is important so that people know that if they make this choice to have a manual reader, that they can have this equal payment plan in place so that they don't have to pay the however much it was for a manual read each month. $14.53 per billing cycle. This way, they could have it read less often and not have to pay as much. It would make it more inclusive for members of the public that wanted that option.
Any other discussion? Councilor Crowe?
Yeah, it's actually, in here, and the manual recharge is actually $14.98.
Okay.
Other discussion?
Did you say it was already in there?
Page 6 or page 228 of 228. Mine has it.
Yeah, 1490.
Oh, Jesus.
Your setup charge. And then
Right, but does it include the fact that they could have the equal payments plan? I didn't see that on.
That's, yeah, it doesn't say it specifically to that, but some people are eligible for equal payment plan. We did discuss some of those, but there is, the reason I was pointing it out was there was a correction in the figure. It's 1498, not 1435. And it is in there as rates or a setup charge and stuff like that. So I don't know if that would be a separate issue that would come in when you set yourself up for the equal payment plan.
I mean, it is something that is obviously available to everyone. I just don't know if it would be clear. I asked to put it in the original electrical bylaw and was told to put it in this one instead because this was where it needed to go. It's not actually changing anything. It's just making it more clear for the public so that they know that they have that option available without having to jump back to the other bylaw. I don't think they'd find it there.
Councilor Hammond?
just for clarification, you're suggesting that they do an equal monthly or bi-monthly billing and then have their meter read once per year or twice per year, and then it would be adjusted at the end of the year, annual period?
Councilor Buck?
I think I hear what you're saying, and the equal payments plan is already included in our bylaw and it is available to people. But because they're on an equal payments plan, they don't normally have their meter read. I'm just stating that this would be the same here for the people with the manual read meter so that they wouldn't incur those extra costs. It's no different from anyone else on a regular meter.
So then you just read it once per year and then make an adjustment on that final billing?
You'd have to check with staff on that, but I believe that's how it's done.
Councilor Thompson?
And not to bring up my personal business again, but I am on the equal payment plan. And the meter is read every 2 months. The bill I get shows me the consumption that I have we've used. And I just pay the equal payment plan. Sometimes I have a credit, sometimes I have a debit, or I owe money. So it's, it is there and it is available and it is calculated after 1 year's, based on 1 year's use of, and consumption. So that is available.
Councilor Hammond?
I think what you're saying is that your meter, even though you're on equal monthly billing, your meter's still read every second month. So can we check with the staff to see if that's a requirement? How, the frequency of the reading?
That is correct. All of the meters are read bi-monthly, regardless of what type of payment.
Okay. So that for,
Any other questions? Okay. So believe we have a motion on the table to give it the first 3 readings. All in favor? So carried. No late items, so now we move along for questions from the public and the media. Do I have any questions from the public? Sir.
Yeah, my name is Hamilton, James Hamilton. Mayor, council, honorable members of the public and staff. First of all, I want to commend Councillor Butler for the courage to speak up about this secrecy. I hear no acceptable answer why all these things are done so much in secret. Why would taxpayers be outraged? A good question, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. There's a question also from Ian about uninsurable water meters. I brought this up at the last meeting, you may recall, that you need insurable interest in order to insure something. Now, and as I checked it out, I guess I was erroneous at the last meeting. I've been given the understanding that we had been used by the last council, basically said that we, the council, was using the what's the word, the rules, the water meter rules, for example, from another city. So I looked that up because I couldn't find it on our site at that time as well. And at that time, it seemed that the city was owning the water meters and requiring the people to pay. And now, as I looked and find that I got help from one councillor, I showed me how to find this. The taxpayers are required to buy. They're forced to buy. They're not forced. Well, they're not forced. Somebody says, well, I guess they have no option but to buy either a meter or a pit meter.
No, the city owns the meters.
Not according to the bylaws. That's what I thought, apparently not. The bottom line is, the insurers, I was involved with insurance many years ago, insurers refuse to cover any kind of faulty workmanship. Now, if it's been done by the good plumber, wonderful. If it's done by somebody other than that, the insurers, and there's an accident or a problem, the insurers will not cover it. So now that means that the householder will not have the coverage of, say, it was a fire from a smart meter or flood from a whatever. I've happened in Saskatchewan. They called all meters. Anyway, the point is, I have recommended that the city applies to someone, some insurance company, to get a blanket coverage of these meters, because I suspect insurance companies will not want to cover them. And that leaves the city really open for being sued for putting in faulty meters if it happens. Now, of course, surely it's not going to happen. But every now and again, fire happens, floods happen, and you need to cover yourself. So that's just one issue. And
Can we address
I
that?
want to address that right away.
Just to clarify again, the city owns the water meters that are installed inside the home and also on city property in the pit meters. The city takes all responsibility and the city is liable for any damage, and their insurance company will cover, and the city's made that clear, that they cover all responsibility, any damage occurred as a result of the water meters. The city owns those water meters.
You've looked that up, have you?
That's the fact.
Well, I may have made a mistake here, because I thought that was the case when I was saying that the individual doesn't have insurable interest, can't insure. When I looked up the bylaw, it seemed that the city does not own it, but the people.
Could I get a clarification from our manager of operations?
Yes,
On that
Mr.
issue.
Mayor, if the manager of operations would care to comment.
Can our manager of operations?
Yeah, sure. So we take the infrastructure over, we take the meters over, and we do have insurance through our insurance to cover anything that happens. Thanks.
So if you take the meters over, why is the public paying $2,500 for a pit meter and paying for it if they don't own it?
Meters are free right now?
No, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about for those people, most of the people here have a meter, right? They're quite happy. They want meters. There are people who don't want meters. I don't mind if you have a meter. I don't want a meter. Okay, let's be fair. I'm not going to step on your toes. Why would you step on mine? I don't want to have to insure that water meter because I've been in insurance. I know what happens. It's unlikely something will happen, but you've got to have the insurance. And at this present time, under the present law, you can't get insurance. They won't insure you. But anyway, we'll leave that there. I guess I have to write a letter, otherwise it won't be addressed. How's that? Okay, lastly, electricity. I would suggest this $14.98 payable. You can make that maybe every 4 months instead of every 2 months, which would reduce it slightly. And I would suggest that it would be put in writing. Again, Councillor Hamad said, well, we see this, we see that. But it really needs to be in writing what's happening. Because one last thing before I have to go, because of time, is if you study what's been happening in other cities all over the world with universal metering and all that, there's a targeting of the citizens and the prices are going up like this. They're rioting in Ireland and sundry other places because of this. If you're interested at all, please contact me and I'll show you, I'll put you on to some of the things that are happening that are likely to happen in this city if we go on blinded and just go ahead and do what the establishment is saying. And that's another story. There's an organization which is trying to get control of all water. They call it universal metering, and it's to do with control of water to control the people. And I won't say any more. If you're interested at all, please contact me. I'll show you why it's true. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Do I have any other questions? Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'm Jim Cook, Council. If the bylaw is to go ahead with the continuation of the installation of the water meters as Councilor Vereshchagin proposed, is that bylaw going to be amended or changed to take out the fines in it? And is the bylaw going to also allow that every meter that's to be installed is to be installed in accordance with the BC Plumbing Code this time?
The motion, I believe, is to carry on
With the project.
with the project.
Carries on. Can I direct that at staff? That question? Or can we get it from the manager of operations? Can we get a clarification on the question?
What I understood, Mr. Cook, that he's asking if council is considering amending the bylaw that removes the fines. So that again would be council's initiative if they wanted to amend their bylaw. It's already adopted. So if there's anything within the electrical or the water meter bylaw and that whole regulation, that would be up to council if they so felt that they needed to change any of the wording within that bylaw.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Speak up.
If I may, just before you go on, could we do something about getting mics for these folks back here too? Because a lot of us can't hear what they say.
Speak up.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Mayor, that with Mr. Matheson's new footprint of the floor plan, that we'll likely be able to get some mic systems that will allow for staff to speak louder on microphones as well.
So if I may, I'll just leave that with you as a question then. If you're going to carry on with this project, then what about giving that consideration? That's not an unfair request, that the people have a chance and not be threatened by the fines, and the BC Plumbing Code be respected.
Yeah. So would council want to address this now?
I don't think it's the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to do that for another meeting then?
Yeah, we're beyond that in this package for sure, yeah.
We will address it.
And if I may say just two other short things, I too commend Councillor Butler on her elevated level of consciousness as to that transparency be a part of this council, as I know I believe all of you really would like to provide. And I would also suggest that in the hiring of a new CAO, you look for someone that thinks from the same level of consciousness, so that the disputes and the disagreements that have been caused by the secrecy that's come up over all these different issues with prior council and mayor have left us in the circumstance we're in. So I look to you all to select the CEO that will offer this same level of consciousness. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Butler. Wrong, sorry.
Okay. Now I know who I am. Yeah, there's been stuff said. There's been stuff said tonight about previous councils and secrecy, and all this stuff's done in secrecy. I have sat in camera meetings, and we had one today. And all of the discussion has to do with what's supposed to be under Section 90. And the simplified version is the 3 L's: legal, labor, and land. Nothing else. There's been no secret meetings other than the ones that we've all participated in. And those are all under Section 90 of the Charter. So I don't know where all this stuff is coming from.
Councilor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under Section 90, I believe there's 5 things that must be done in camera. And then there's a list of many things that may be done in camera. And I'm just suggesting that the things that may be done in camera, that they may be done in public.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the media? Can I then have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, sorry.
Gloria Cook, please. I would like to know and ask if council will allow people to have different options available to them regarding this meter business. Also to look at some different options to deal with this water issue in different ways other than meters. There are other options, and I can provide some ideas and to look at. I thought that was going to be available earlier, or to us still, but apparently you've gone ahead and done this way. So I'd like to ask if that's still available.
Councilor Thompson.
If I'm hearing you correctly, that could be considered when the select committee meets to discuss rates. I would think that might be something that could come forward. From what I'm hearing your question.
It's not just rates, it's ways of doing a similar job or thing in this field. Ways of accomplishing the same thing is reducing water use.
Oh, okay, I thought you were concerned with rates.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
There are other ways to accomplish the rate issue.
The conservation issue.
And the conservation issue, both. So I request that people be allowed to have input, real considered input to this process.
On behalf of council, may I just state that we had already mentioned we will look at the bylaws, implementing whatever changes deemed necessary, because as mayor, this water meter issue has just separated the city horrendously, and it's time that it stops. Councilor.
In closing, I just wanted to read a statement from the mayor of Metchosin, John Rands. He stated this week, this is talking about the hydro meters, the smart meters, but he said, it's similar to our case. What I find most disturbing about BC Hydro's forced imposition of smart meters is how readily politicians of all parties have abandoned fundamental principles of a free society in order to accommodate bureaucratic expediency. Individual freedom demands that government has boundaries, As far back as the 1600s, the concept that individuals need sanctuary from government was established in British common law, still applicable in British Columbia, clearly stating that your home is your castle and that the sovereign will not cross your threshold without following due process. Except now they have. In one stroke, the province is saying that lawful citizens no longer have a choice in what enters or leaves their homes.
Thank you. So we had a motion on the table to adjourn?
Yeah.
All in favor? So, he's adjourned.